There's a woman standing at a podium in a Florida courtroom, across from the man who has haunted her thoughts for years. The left side of Camile Hamilton's face still shows the signs of where a bullet entered near her cheek during a 2009 home invasion. Her eyesight and hearing will never be normal. Camile had barely survived the shooting, but others had not. Her teenage daughter died, so did her friend, and so did her friend's teenage son. Now she's facing Kevin Pratt, the man accused of the vicious attack. For nearly 6 years, this is the day Camile has waited for. But it isn't going as planned. Instead of being sentenced to death, Kevin accepts an incredible offer, 10 years in prison if he pleads guilty to the crimes. It's a stunning punishment for a man charged with murdering 3 people in cold blood. Camile is given one last chance to speak. She shouts at him, demanding an apology.
Tell me you're sorry, you can't. You take away everything. Nikita was only 15. She was a little girl.
Kevin, sitting in his striped jail uniform, has a few words of his own for Camile. I didn't do it, ma'am. Moments later, he's taken away to prison. And that's how this story ends, with no justice for anybody. How did it arrive at such a perplexing conclusion? To find out, our investigative reporter would have to go back to where it started. To that August 2009 day, when police found Camile on the front porch of a Florida home hours after she had been shot. From the South Florida Sun-Sentinel in association with Wondery, welcome to Season 2 of Felonious Florida, the podcast that leads you into the dark side of the Sunshine State. I'm your host, Emma Kate Austin, along with investigative reporter Stephen Hobbs, and this is Part 1 of the Encino Murders. The call to 911 comes in a little before 3 p.m. It's August 17th, 2009. A man on the phone tells the operator his friend is on another line. She has been shot in the face. When he first got the call from Camile Hamilton, he thought she was joking. The two were from Jamaica, but had met in the United States a couple years earlier through another mutual friend. They clicked, and they spoke on the phone often, using Jamaican patois. Camile liked to shop, and their phone conversations often centered around clothes and fashion. The night before the 911 call, the two had spoken briefly by phone, but there was a lot of noise in the background, and Camile was busy. The friend told Camile to call him back when she was free, but she never did. Until that Monday afternoon. Now, holding a cell phone with Camile's call in one hand and a second phone with the 911 call in the other, the man urgently tries to relay information between the calls. Camile can barely speak, she sounds weak and is incoherent, and there are long pauses between her responses. My colleague, investigative reporter Stephen Hobbs, describes the call.
This 911 call is so frustrating to listen to because there's a woman who's been shot in the face, and just how difficult it is for officers to get the information they need to find her.
911, what is your emergency?
Now, Camile doesn't know where she is. She doesn't know the address of the home where she's at. Neither does the guy on the phone, but he knows that Camile is at her friend's house. Her name is Faith. Now, the guy's been there maybe once or twice before, and he knows it's in the city of Miramar.
Hi, listen, I have a friend on the phone.
I'm sorry, what?
There's a friend of mine on the phone. She's incoherent.
She's incoherent, your friend?
Yeah,
Okay.
but she is down in Miramar, so I don't know if you could contact the Miramar police.
I can. What is the address of the emergency?
I really don't know the address, you know. I can give you directions, though.
Okay, what is going on with her?
She said she's been shot in the face.
She's what?
She said she was shot in the face.
She was what in the face?
Shot. She was shot in the face.
She was shot in the face?
Yes.
Okay, you don't know the address at all? Do you know the side street?
So he jumps on Google Maps, scanning through areas in the city that he remembers, and somehow he's able to find the right home and give that information to 911 operators.
Right, it would be Fairmont Avenue.
Claremont Avenue?
Fairmont.
Claremont in what, Miramar?
Fairmont Avenue, and then you're going to take Encino Street, and it's like the...
Claremont and take Encino?
No, Fairmont Avenue.
How do you spell it?
Fairmont.
I-R-M-O-C?
Mont.
S-A-I-R-M-O-N.
F-A-I, F as in Frank.
Oh, Fairmont.
Fairmont Avenue, yeah.
Fairmont Avenue, and what's the other side street?
Encino Street.
Encino? Tell them Fairmont and Encino.
And it will be like...
What's on
there
her...
are a lot of flower pots in the yard. That's the most I can tell you.
At this point, it's about 5 minutes in. Here's what we have so far. Encino Street in Miramar, off of Fairmont Avenue, not far north of the Miami-Dade County line. It's the fifth house on the left. There's flower pots, but it doesn't do much to reduce the confusion of the call. He tells them more. There's a big white car parked in the driveway, maybe a Mercury. And he says there should be 3 other people in the house.
So she was shot last night in the face. How come she's calling you now? What's going on now? Like how...
I don't know. I have no idea. I'm trying to get information from her.
She doesn't even know who shot her in the face?
No, she doesn't. They were robbed last night. Some guys came in on them.
Is there any other victims in the house?
There should be 3 other people in the house, but I asked her about them. She said she don't know where they are.
Okay. And these are family members? Sure.
Yeah, one is her daughter, and the other one is her friend and her friend's son.
Fairmont is less than a mile long, but police officers looking for the house need more information. And the minutes just keep ticking by. The caller gives the operator Camile's name and tries to get Camile to describe where in the house she is. He tells Camile to stay calm. Help is coming. Then the call gets even more complicated. One officer wants to call the man directly, so he hangs up with the 911 operator. Soon after that, another dispatcher calls back, and the man asks for the operator who took the original call.
Hi, this is the Broward Sheriff's Office. Received a 911 call from this number?
Yeah, I was speaking to operator 28. Is it possible you could put me back to her, please?
How long ago did you speak to that person?
Less than 10 minutes ago.
Okay, what was it about, sir?
An incident in Miramar.
Okay, she's gone already. How can I help you, sir?
Now it's more than 15 minutes. The caller's frustration is growing as the operator tries to get more information, this time about where he's calling from. By now he's just exasperated. My friend is on the phone dying, he says, and you're asking questions about me?
Why are they having difficulty finding the house?
Hold on one second.
Stay with me, alright? Don't go to sleep. Just stay awake. Alright?
Sir, you're in Lauderhill, right?
Yes.
What is your address?
Oh my. Lady, you really aggravating me now, you know.
Okay,
I don't mean to be rude, but you're aggravating me because you're asking me relevant questions. She's on the phone dying and you're asking me my address?
Okay, yeah, I'm asking your address so we can get it further information. Sir, hello? Hello?
I'm going to go down there myself. Thank you.
You're going to drive down there yourself?
Still searching for the right house, an operator tries a different approach. She contacts T-Mobile to see if they can trace Camile's cell phone. But even though it's a desperate emergency, she hits a frustrating delay we're all used to.
Hi, you've reached the Law Enforcement Relations Group for T-Mobile. In order to focus our effort on reducing subpoena turnaround time, we will answer general category calls between 11 a.m.
We had a female that called her friend. She said that she was robbed last night.
Uh-huh.
Got shot in the face. She's unable to move. She can't remember her address. It's in the city of Miramar, we know so far, and we have units all over the city looking for this house. So we're trying to see if we can get an address from them.
Okay. All right. What I'm going to need from you is a letter before I can release any information because the individual is not directly requesting assistance from 911.
Okay.
Just when it seems like operators have no other options, one of them actually gets Camile on the phone, more than 30 minutes after her friend first called.
Hello, this is the Broward Sheriff's Office. You were shot in the face, right? Yes?
I have her on the phone.
Okay, where are you?
Camile can barely speak, and as you can hear, it's hard at times to understand her. The operator tries to get her to describe where she is, then to go outside the front door where officers might be able to see her.
Can you walk at all? Huh?
Yeah, sure.
Can you maybe see anything that you could tell us the address?
I'm going to try.
You're trying? Okay. We have the paramedics waiting for you, too. We're trying to find you, okay? Are you walking right now? No? Okay, where are you in the house?
At the door. Downstairs, I was reading.
You're downstairs right now? Yes?
Camile somehow makes her way out the front door. In the 911 call, you can hear officers in the background.
Anybody here?
He's there. Try to yell to him, okay? He with you? He's with you?
Yeah, come here. Yeah, come here.
Tim.
Yeah, what's going on here? Ma'am? Anybody else in the house? Is there anybody in the house?
And the recording ends there, with Camile Hamilton finally found.
Sergeant David Wilson is one of 2 Miramar officers to approach the home on Encino Street during the call. He's joined by another sergeant, Jeffrey Armiento, who's a SWAT team officer with the department. Armiento is on foot looking for clues. Other officers wait on nearby Fairmont Avenue. Armiento thinks he finds the right home, but he's not sure. The house is 2 stories, beige with pink trim. It's quiet with no signs of trouble. He walks around it, and the only unusual thing is a screen from a back window is on the ground. A gold Toyota Corolla sits in the driveway to the left of the house. The white Mercury Sable described on the 911 call is next to the Toyota, parked askew and over the sidewalk. The property backs up to a large pond. Many of the houses in the River Run neighborhood do. Single-family homes are packed tightly together along winding streets that often end in dead ends. In 2009, Miramar is a fast-growing suburb of about 120,000 people. It's in the far south of Broward County. The city is closer to the Everglades than the beach, and it's marked by water, ponds, and small lakes where alligator sightings are common, sometimes even in a swimming pool. And Miramar is diverse. Black people make up 46% of the population. It's a destination for people from the Caribbean islands, especially Jamaica. Around 11% of people there say they're Jamaican. Flights from South Florida are under 2 hours, and that short flight is what brought Camile Hamilton and her daughter from their native Jamaica a little more than 2 weeks before the attack. It's a typical 90-degree August day under the Florida sun when Sergeant Armiento gets the house number on Encino Street where Camile should be. The door is closed and Armiento doesn't want to knock. He doesn't know who might answer. So he goes across the street to find a neighbor. Just as he knocks on the neighbor's door, he looks back and sees Camile at the doorstep. She's wearing a brown sundress and she's sitting on the ground, leaning against the door, her legs out in front of her. Armiento and Wilson have to act fast, but they have to be cautious too. If this is the woman who's been shot, who is the shooter? And where is the shooter? They approach the home, protected by a bulletproof shield. They order Camile to stand and walk towards them, but they get no response. She needs help and the officers need a plan. Wilson described their next move in a deposition he gave later.
Eventually, we can tell that the door is open, the front door is open. Right. So we devise a plan that myself and Sergeant Armiento basically bypass her, go into the front of the house. Right. And kind of set security at the front of the house while I believe it was Officer Donnie and Maurice. I'm not sure. Right. Let me look at my. Sure, feel free to look anytime. Right. Donnie removed her to a safe location across the street.
Okay. So now, when you say you bypass, you just kind of walk by her, right?
Right. Well, as you know, obviously you use the shield for cover, and as you walk up, you make sure that there's no other weapon, or she doesn't have a weapon or anything there. Like I said, we didn't know what we were walking into at this point.
2 other officers reach Camile and check for a pulse. Dried blood covers a gunshot wound near her left cheekbone. She moans. Somehow she's alive. They lift her to their shoulders and rush her across the street and out of danger. She's in and out of consciousness, but manages to give police one bit of alarming news. Her young daughter is still inside. And there are others. What would it look like if we all listened more? This is Emma Kate Austin. Listening to audiobooks motivates us, inspires us, even brings us closer together. There's no better place to listen than Audible, because now Audible members get even more. Exclusive fitness programs, audiobooks, Audible Originals, and more. Audible has the largest selection of audiobooks on the planet, and now with Audible Originals, the selection has gotten even more custom with content made just for members. Every month, Audible members get 1 credit for any audiobook they choose, plus 2 Audible Originals from a changing selection that they can't get anywhere else. You can probably guess that I love true crime, so I've been listening to Michelle McNamara's I'll Be Gone in the Dark. It's the creepy, true story of the author's obsessive search for the Golden State Killer. Now Audible has a special offer for listeners of Felonious Florida. If you visit audible.com/Florida or text Florida to 500-500, your first audiobook will be free when you start a 30-day trial. With Audible, your books are yours to keep. Go back and re-listen anytime, even if you cancel your membership. Don't like your audiobook? Exchange it, no questions asked. So get your free audiobook today by going to audible.com/Florida. That's AUDIBLE.com/Florida or by texting Florida to 500-500. Audible. You can do it with audiobooks. While paramedics are whisking a badly injured Camile Hamilton to an ambulance, Sergeants Armiento and Wilson are in the home with other officers. Their guns are drawn. Inside the door, there's a small hallway that leads straight ahead into the kitchen. To the left is a staircase leading up to the second floor. To the right is the dining room. There's no movement inside the house, but there are some small signs that there was a disturbance here. There's money scattered on the floor inside the foyer, American and Jamaican dollars. A gold-colored purse hangs partially off a small table in front of the officers.
The 3 officers stayed right there basically by the front door, and myself and Sergeant Armiento began to sweep the house in sort of a counterclockwise motion. We went off to the right first and then back down towards the dining room. Okay. He got back down a little bit further into the house than me. I had left the shield with the 3 female officers, right? And that's when he spotted the projectile laying on the floor in the dining room. At that point, him being the tactical SWAT guy that he is, he made the determination for us to back out of the house and re-engage the situation with the SWAT officers.
They find a bullet on the floor, and the officers look up and see a hole in the ceiling. It could have been shot through the floor upstairs. The shooter may still be here, somewhere in the house. Wilson, Armiento, and the other officers regroup outside of the home and call for the SWAT team. But if there are other victims in the house, time is not on their side. Somebody may need help. When they go back in, there are more problem signs. An officer notices a drop of blood by the door, and there's a foul odor. As Wilson and another officer watch the staircase, Armiento and 2 SWAT officers move through the first floor, again clearing it room by room. Every corner is checked. They toss around maroon-colored cushions piled on couches in front of the television, looking for a possible hiding gunman. But the first floor is empty. Armiento leads the officers up the stairs. It's 6 carpeted steps up, then the staircase turns right and continues another 9 steps. At the top of the stairs, they look into the first door on the left. It's the master bedroom, and it's here police make the grisly discovery. 3 bodies lay on the floor. Their feet are bound with duct tape. 2 have their hands bound, and blood is everywhere, on the door and the comforter on the nearby bed. Armiento, also in a deposition, describes what he saw.
They're laying on their stomachs, duct taped at the ankles, the wrists. Looked like obvious trauma to the head. There was blood on the ground. I believe there's casings there. It looked like they were...
Shell casings?
Yeah, it looked like they were shot in the head.
Okay. Now, were all 3 like lined up in the bedroom, or was there an order to the way they were laying, or?
From what I remember, and to be accurate, I'd like to look at some pictures, but from what I remember off the top of my head, I believe there were 2 victims. As you walked in the bedroom door, there were 2 victims right on the ground. Possibly their heads facing me.
Okay.
And then there was another victim, I believe, who was the young man, the 15-year-old. Right. I think he was kind of partially in a closet.
Faith Bissessor and 2 teenagers, Davian Bishop and Nikita Hamilton, had been shot in their heads and were dead. The scene in the house is horrifying, and the person who killed Faith, Davian, and Nikita escaped, probably many hours ago. Police have a lot of time to make up. Miramar detective Steve Toyota is in his office when he gets a call from his supervisor. He's told a woman had been shot and was on her way to Memorial Regional Hospital in nearby Hollywood, Florida. He doesn't know her condition or if she'll survive. It's not the first case for the 40-year-old detective. He'd been with the department since 1993 and a homicide investigator since 2004. He averages about 10 cases a year. And he's a respected investigator. Before homicides, he worked as a narcotics officer and was named the city's co-officer of the year in part for reducing drug trafficking in the city. Shootings are routine, but as he drives to the hospital, this case is about to become one of Toyota's biggest. Before he arrives, he gets another call. His shooting investigation is now a triple murder case. When he first sees Camile Hamilton, it doesn't look good. Toyota knows he doesn't have much time to act. He's had victims rushed off to surgery and never come back. He described those first moments in a deposition.
I'm literally trying to poke my head in amongst the medical staff, trying to get whatever information I can, because I can tell you my experience. Sometimes when the victim's taken to surgery and they go to ICU, and if they don't come out, we never have a chance to ask.
His initial conversation with Camile was recorded. The audio quality is very poor and Camile's voice is weak. She's barely able to respond. But in the recording, the detective can be heard repeating what he thinks she says and pressing her for whatever information he can get. A doctor at her bedside is heard first.
Tell him what happened.
He said,
You said to what?
he said he wants money.
Money? He wants money? Okay.
He got the gun.
He wants money for what?
He got the gun, he wants some money. I said, I have no money.
He wants money for what? Try one more time.
He wants money, he just wants money.
That he just wants money? That's it? He didn't say why? No? Do you know him?
No.
Who knows him? Who's he an acquaintance of? Who's he a friend of? Why would he end up at your house?
I don't know, I was outside putting in some stuff.
You were outside?
And I was putting in some stuff because I had some stuff in the car. I was taking me inside.
Hang on, you gotta stop because I'm not understanding you. Camille, you gotta speak up, okay? Speak up, it's important.
Yes, I was outside taking some stuff from the car to inside.
Okay, hang on. You were outside taking some stuff from the car to inside, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then just walk off.
And then what?
Just walk off. He had a gun in his hand.
Say that one more time.
He had a gun in his hand.
Detective Toyota wasn't getting much. At one point, he waits as she's taken away by medical staff. When she comes back, Camile is now in the intensive care unit. Detective Toyota questions her more.
Camille, it's Detective Toyota again. Okay, I need to ask you a few more questions, okay? It's very important, all right? I don't want to bother you too much, but if we could just get this out of the way, you can get some rest, okay?
Camile was still weak and hard to hear on the recording. Here's reporter Stephen Hobbs explaining what Detective Toyota learned from Camile at the hospital.
Camile told Detective Toyota that she had driven south from West Palm Beach. That's about 50 miles away from Miramar. Now, she had gotten there the night before, and she was unloading things from her car when a man with a gun approached her. He was asking her for money. He forced her inside the home, and his face was at least partly covered. He was black, had an American accent, but she didn't recognize his voice. She was with her daughter, Nikki, her friend Faith, and Faith's son, Davian. But she didn't really know what happened to them. These details were a start for the detective, but there were still a lot of questions.
Toyota asks Camile a few more questions that could help detectives. Even the tiniest bit of evidence could crack the case. Was he wearing gloves? She doesn't remember. The detective asks again less than an hour later. This time she says yes, he was. Had he touched her? Camile says he slapped her. Did he touch anything else? Yes, he held her purse. It's black and it's in the house. A Miramar crime scene technician comes to the hospital. Using a cotton swab and water, she rubs Camile's fingernails for DNA. Camile is wearing a neck brace and using an oxygen mask. Her arms and legs are bruised. She has scrapes and blood on her knees. Her clothes and jewelry are taken and stored as evidence. By 5:15 that evening, less than 2 hours after Camile was found by the police on the porch of the Miramar home, Detective Toyota finishes his last interview with her that day. It's his turn to head to the scene. Back on Encino Street, yellow police tape stretches around the property, which is now a major crime scene. Detectives from the sheriff's office arrive to help. Evidence cones cover items in front of the home. A light Florida summer rain quickly comes and goes. Officers are spreading out in the neighborhood, knocking on doors, looking for witnesses, and questioning people who are watching the scene from the street. They're giving differing information. One neighbor says that he was 99% sure that the white Mercury Sable was not parked in the driveway at 7 a.m. that morning. Another says she had seen it there around 6 a.m. Others weren't giving officers much to go on. No one had heard gunshots, and no one had seen anyone flee the scene. The first hours of the investigation aren't turning up much. But there was at least one thing to go on. Earlier that morning, possibly around the time of the murders, police officers on patrol had a chance encounter with a man who could be connected. They just had to find him. Around 2:15 a.m. on the day Camile Hamilton was found, more than 12 hours before her call for help, 2 Miramar officers are on patrol. Just west of Encino Street, they spot a man walking. The officers make a U-turn and drive towards him. He's a black man wearing a gray t-shirt, black shorts, and black sneakers. As the 2 officers were turning, the man sprints away. He crosses the road, climbs over a metal railing, and dashes through the bushes. He's heading toward an area that leads to a small lake. The officers call for backup and set out on foot with flashlights searching for the man. There's no sign of him. They look around the lake, but the only clues they find are brown leather sandals and black sneakers. The time of that chance meeting could have corresponded with the time the Encino Street victims were shot, and it was about a mile from the murder scene. But they couldn't find him. If the man was connected in some way, police would never know. Back at the crime scene, officers look for clues outside the home. The Toyota Corolla, parked on the west side of the driveway, is registered to Faith Bissessor. Faith is the owner of the home, so that Toyota belongs there. But the white Mercury Sable, parked at an angle and partially over the sidewalk, is suspicious. The glove compartment is open, and paper is piled on the front passenger seat and on the floor. The car isn't registered to anybody who was at the home. So whose is it? Police trace the Sable to a woman who lived 50 miles north in the city of Lake Worth. Miramar detectives head to her home and speak with the owner and her daughter. They tell police that Camile Hamilton was working as a caretaker for the elderly mother. They say Camile had gone home to Jamaica recently, but returned on August 1st with her daughter Nikita. The elderly woman can't recall exactly what time she had last seen Camile, but she took her scheduled pills at about 9 p.m. the night before, so Camile was there until at least then. The daughter says that Camile had used their car to run local errands, but it wasn't often and she never took it very far. So what was Camile doing with their car so late at night and 50 miles away? The Sable isn't the only car that's raising questions. There's another that is even more mysterious. On Encino Street, Broward Sheriff's Office detectives have taken over at the crime scene. Inside the garage, detectives are looking at an expensive, blue, 2-door Mercedes S600, but the car is unusual. Very unusual, in fact. It has double-paneled glass windows, and the doors are unusually thick. The lead sheriff's detective looks over the car and believes it's armored. But why did Faith have an armored car in her garage? He calls in Detective Toyota and they alert the bomb squad. The sheriff's detective looks inside, but doesn't have it searched and doesn't collect any evidence from it. The car is a mystery, and certainly unusual. Something else unusual is found, this time outside the home on the grass. There are small plastic baggies, often used for drugs. Drug-sniffing dogs come to the scene, searching the outside and then the inside of the home, but nothing is found. 2 people interviewed by police say they think the attack might not have been random, but no proof that the victims were targeted was ever found. The armored Mercedes, the plastic baggies. Detective Toyota would later say he considered the possibility that the murders were drug-related, but concluded that the attack was indeed random. Most of the other relevant evidence is believed to be inside the house, where detectives are trying to make sense of what went on the night before. It's overwhelming. The 3 bodies are upstairs in the master bedroom, but detectives discover a bullet and 2 bullet shells in a guest bedroom too. And there are signs of a robbery. Not far from the bodies, purses are found overturned on the bed with their contents scattered. A small black safe is set on top of a nearby armoire, and it looks as if somebody had been trying to open it. It's a complicated, confusing crime scene, and police are videotaping, noting, and photographing every inch looking for a significant clue. As the search for evidence stretches into days, there are far more questions than answers. The only person who could help piece it together is in intensive care, with a bullet still in her neck. Who shot Camile Hamilton and killed Faith Bissessor, Davian Bishop, and Nikita Hamilton? What police haven't yet realized is that the key to identifying a suspect is hiding in plain sight. It's sitting next to the bodies in the bedroom, though it will be many months before it reveals its secret. It's a roll of duct tape, and it contains what will become the most significant piece of evidence in the entire case. On the next episode of Felonious Florida, the Encino Murders, Camile Hamilton shares more about the 14 unexplained hours inside the Encino Street home. But our investigation reveals that her story was inconsistent over many interviews she gave to police. Then, after months of dead ends in the investigation, police catch a break that holds more promise. They begin to zero in on a suspect. Thanks for listening to this episode of Felonious Florida. If you're enjoying the podcast, please rate us on Apple Podcasts and tell your friends about our show. It's available online at feloniousflorida.com, Apple Podcasts, Wondery.com, or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can go online to see photographs, video, and read more about the cases we're featuring at feloniousflorida.com. And be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Felonious Florida is produced by the South Florida Sun Sentinel and Wondery. The Encino Murders was reported and written by Stephen Hobbs. And I'm your host and sound designer, Emma Kate Austin. Our producers are David Schutz and Juan Ortega. Editing by Randy Roguski. Sound direction by Sean Pitts, with additional recordings by Carlene Jean. Courtroom audio was provided by WFOR CBS Miami. The Felonious Florida team includes Lisa Arthur, Dana Banker, Huron Zhu, Danny Sanchez, and Kelly Fry.
Hi, this is Stephen Hobbs. Local journalism matters. Support us by joining the Sun Sentinel, South Florida's leading source of news, information, and entertainment. Visit sunsentinel.com/join.